I am those people who always actually wanted to be a doctor. Like those people who actually followed through with the dream of wanting to be a doctor from when we were kids.
Today, on the Financially Incorrect Uganda Edition, we get to understand how money works for doctors in Uganda.
If you're someone who wants money, you need to first of all understand that in medicine, it will take long for you to arrive because, like I said, the money is more at the top.
I get to sit down with Dr. Tumusiime Nyamurungi, a Ugandan doctor passionate about medicine and financial independence.
For me, I felt like I can't be poor. For me, medicine was quite literally a passion. I was like, well, I mean, of course, money will come out of it, but it wasn't going to be something that I'm like, this is where all my money is going to come from.
She reflects on how her father's lessons on financial independence shaped her mindset about money and relationships, and shares about the emotional side of being a doctor, from losing patients to working long hours for modest pay.
When a person dies, you also go into grieving, but you're supposed to be like, okay, I mean, rest in peace, but now move on. But what does that do to you as a human being?
Through her side hustle, baking, selling clothes and perfumes, and lending money to colleagues, she learned financial discipline.
But during my time in uni, there are so many odd jobs that I did to be able to have a bit more money.
Today, she defines success not just by healing patients, but by helping others understand the real cost and purpose of medicine.
Hey guys, this is Barak from Financially Incorrect. I am here to say thank you so much for the 50k plus people who have subscribed to Financially Incorrect. We really do appreciate you. When we crossed 50k, we had a nice, small, intimate party at our offices. Then we celebrated this milestone. I have convinced the powers that be that if we can get to 100k by December, we will throw a big party to celebrate with all of you guys. And now we have 3 different segments for you guys to watch. There's Financially Incorrect Business Edition, Financially Incorrect Uganda Edition, and Financially Incorrect, the regular Kenyan edition. So please do, if you like our content, subscribe. If we get to 100k by December, we will throw the biggest party in East Africa. So please do subscribe. Hey everybody, welcome back to Financially Incorrect Uganda Edition. I have another episode for you today. I hope you've been enjoying this content so far. Like I said, we are doing 2 a month. Hopefully, we will be able to add and have more episodes. So please, share this with anybody in your community. Comment, let us know who you want us to interview next. And hopefully we can be able to try and make this happen. We potentially can do something really exciting by the end of the year in Uganda, Kampala. It remains to be seen or to be confirmed. But thank you for joining me today on this another episode. And of course, I have another money story for you. So today it's from the medical field. I have none other than, I'm just going to read her bio. I have none other than Dr. Tumusiime Nyamurungi, who is a medical doctor and a digital storyteller, passionate about helping people living healthier and more informed lives. She has a growing community of about over 150,000 followers. And she has not just about medical knowledge, but also practical insights on navigating money matters, from saving and health insurance to financial mindset shifts. She brings a fresh perspective, relatable voice to the often intimidating world of finance, especially for young professionals balancing around purpose and pocket. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. You had mentioned my name properly before, and then now you butchered it again.
Did I butcher it now? As I was reading it.
Nyamurungi.
Oh,
You mentioned it like a proper Kenyan, but it's okay. It's Nyamurungi.
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 Nyamurungi. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
It's fine. Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to Financially
Thank you.
Incorrect.
Thank you.
It's really
I'm
good
happy
have
to be here.
I'm really looking forward to hearing about the medical side and the medical stuff. Really key.
Yeah.
So to kick off the podcast, before you even tell me about yourself and how you even got there, I have a question for you, a bit left field, and that is, what percentage of clothes in your closet do you wear? Do you think?
Probably first of all, I'm not really a closet person. I don't really have a large collection. I'm not those people, but probably a good 40%. It's below the 50.
Below a 50 for sure.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. Why I asked that is I was listening to something, I think 2 weeks ago, and there was a stat that they gave that apparently right now in the world, and this was actually as of 2024, in the world, there was enough clothes for the next 6 generations in the world.
Makes sense.
Yeah, there was enough clothes for the next 6 generations in the world.
Makes sense, because I know people who have enough clothes for the next generation, just one human being.
Yeah.
Just one human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
it got
get
me
that.
thinking around, it's a crazy start to think about because like how are there so many clothes? Like everybody in the world, and this is not even looking at the thing about people who don't have clothes and clothing people. This is just the literal statistic of there's enough clothes for the next 6 generations in the world to have clothes.
That's interesting and very. How did the person even do the stats? How did they know how many clothes every person has? Because you can't average it.
They were comparing it based on the amount of clothes that manufacturers produce every year. And so some other really interesting figures that I saw was something like a third of all of the clothes that are made every year end up being either recycled or taken to waste or something like that. It was just a really interesting thing around clothes. And so I was like, actually, yeah. I mean, if you think about your clothes, how many clothes do you actually need?
True.
You know.
True.
And again, not even from a perspective of, the unclothed and giving back and things like that. Just from
the average
amount of
being
money that you spend
on clothes
vis-a-vis, because you can only wear. I mean, even if you were to try your best, how many pieces of clothing could you wear at a go?
4, maybe.
Yeah, so it's a crazy thing to think about. But anyway, that was my sort of off the cuff question. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about the medicine the medicine that you practice. And how you even got passionate enough to begin to talk about it on the digital spaces.
Okay, so I am Tumusiime Nyamurungi. I'm basically gave the Kenyan way, but that's okay. So I have been in at this point, I don't even know. So I finished medical school a few years ago, but time really flies, Anyway, so after medical school, I moved around a lot. So when we finish, you're supposed to post you somewhere in Kampala, not in Kampala, anywhere around Uganda. So for me, as opposed to most people wanted to practice in Kampala because, of course, there are more opportunities, there is more diversity, you can be able to do your other things. But for me, I wanted to go up country, and especially because I wanted somewhere where it's more quiet and focused, because I tend to get overwhelmed by the noise. I don't know if that makes sense. So I went to somewhere in the village, deep down there. It's called Chisisi. That's where I did from my internship finished. And then I just had a culture shock where I just came to Kampala. When I came to Kampala, I practiced in one of the most international facilities. So it was such a shift, yeah? And the thing that I found very interesting is, now while in medical school, we moved around a lot during placements. So you'd be in a place for maybe like a year or so. So I think almost all parts of Uganda I have been, and for like a year plus, except in the north. That's where I didn't really get an opportunity to work. So while I was in all these places, one thing I noticed was the knowledge gap in healthcare. So in the rural areas, it was literally a knowledge gap. Like people who will say things like someone maybe has like a liver disease and they're using herbs to treat it, and yet herbs are killing the liver even more. So things like that. When it comes to like childbirth, you find mothers are being given herbs from their mothers-in-law or something. Then by the time she comes, her uterus has ruptured. So she practically dies, the baby dies. Then when I came to Kampala, the difference was people would seem like they know things because they have Google, but in actual sense, they do not. So they would make up errors. For example, a doctor writes you a prescription, and because you Googled something about it, it says, oh, this drug, you shouldn't do this or whatever, don't take it like this. Then you just stop the drug. And then now you end up getting harm, or, things like that. Or you find things like people say, I'm waiting for the second opinion, third opinion. Now, by the time you reach the third opinion, you've reached probably the wrong hands, if that makes sense. So I was like, at least for the best part, and that was something that I kept seeing occurring a lot. So I was like, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start this thing and to start teaching, like to try to raise awareness. So that's how I got there. At that time, I was a journalist. Now I'm doing my residency. So it's also a bit tedious. That's why the podcasts are really a bit less. But still, I try to make sure that I teach a few things here and there. So that's how we got here.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you decide to become a doctor? Why did you make the decision to get into medicine? My mom's a doctor. Technically, my father.
That's nice. I am those people who always actually wanted to be a doctor. Like those people who actually followed through with the dream of wanting to be a doctor from when we were kids. So I didn't I personally didn't see any other route. The only route I saw was one time I thought of being a judge. But then I was like, if I be a judge, I have to first do law. But I don't want to be a lawyer to argue with people. I just want to sit there and be like, case dismissed, case adjourned. I realized I can't just reach those ranks. Let me just stick to what I can do.
So money didn't have anything to do with wanting to practice medicine or wanting to be a doctor. You didn't associate it with money.
For me personally, to be honest, no. Because I always knew, how can I say it? The way I was raised in a situation where I could see both worlds. Seeing people that can have so much and lose it all. And then seeing people that do not have much, are average, but you see them rising. So for me, I felt like I can't be poor. Like that was not something that I even thought about. And for me, medicine was quite literally a passion. I was like, well, I mean, of course, money will come out of it, but it wasn't going to be something that I'm like, this is where all my money is going to come from. Because the problem with that is sometimes it can kind of corrupt the practice, and it's kind of a noble practice. But either way, I knew that somehow, I mean, like I'm not going to be poor. That was definite. Just because of the things that I went on seeing and learning, and I was very passionate about learning about money in particular. Like, how does this thing move? It's almost like it has its own spirit, you know? Yeah, so that's why.
What's the most interesting thing for around medicine for you? What do you find most interesting about being a doctor?
The fact that you're I learned how to phrase this word properly. It's like you are an extended healing hand of God. It's almost like you can see someone dying, and then I won't say save them, but you can save them. But what we do is more of preserve life to a certain degree. So it was it's almost like something in a different dimension. Like you have the ability to get someone back to life. So that's why it's interesting for me.
I mean, I'll say, I'm always, every time I go and see doctor, when it's not serious, especially when it's consultation, I usually think about, and I'm using this word very loosely, how easy it is for doctors to make money, especially in a consultation, because like I went to see a dermatologist, Dr. Nomico, because I had something and I had hyperpigmentation on my face. So I went to see a dermatologist, and I walked in. Before I got there, I'd asked how much is consultation. That was 3,000 Kenya shillings. I don't know how much that would be. 4,000 Kenya shillings. How much that would be in UGX. I'll find out just now. And just like the session was like a 30-minute session. But when I walked in and I sat down, and so the doctor looked at me, how much is it? 111,000 UGX. So I sat down, and like within like 2 minutes, I mean, she saw my face, and she heard me say what I say, but she's like, okay, this is what you need to do. I mean, I think it took her like 10 minutes, if even, to like diagnose it. The prescription is like, oh yeah, I do this, and I walk out. And I was just like, that's an easy way to make
money.
Like 4,000 shillings. Like, in 10 minutes, like, that's it. And I know people always say, because I'm not trying to undermine the profession or anything, is you don't pay for the 10 minutes, you're paying for all the experience that has come in for the person to be able to diagnose you
in 10 minutes.
So it's fine. But I just I've always thought like it's a really, I don't know what the word is, because I don't want to make it seem easy, but it does feel like it's an easy
way to make money.
Like some money based on the time spent.
I get what you mean. I do understand what you mean. I think when someone has gotten to that place, it can't be an easy way. But the problem, the issue is how they do get there. For example, in Uganda, for you, I don't know how it is in Kenya, but I think it's not different, very different. You do, first of all, you finish your high school. You do undergraduate for about 5 to 6 years. You finish undergraduate. Now there, you're not able to practice. Remember, most other people in other fields finish maybe like in 2 to 3 years. Then after that, now for us to qualify to be a doctor in Uganda, you have to first do an internship, which gives you a medical license. Now that's when you can practice as a journalist. That means you have to first study for 5-6 years, then you add 1 more year. So that's around 6 or 7 years. That's hoping that you didn't get like retakes or something in school. If you're just like sailing through, then after that, of course, as a journalist, it depends on which field you end up going to. Some people go into public health, some people go into what. And depending on where you go, there's like different opportunities. Then after that, for you to specialize now, for you who's a dermatologist, you have to study another extra 3 to 4 years, and depending on the course. So it means that in school, you probably spend almost 10 years in school. Now, for someone who decides now I'm going to super specialize, it means after those 3 years of residency or 4, then you have to add on another 2 to 3 years. So for someone to reach a point whereby they can diagnose you in 10 minutes, it means, first of all, they've done this over and over, they've seen this over and over, they have. So yeah, that's how. But eventually it kind of becomes a bit easier, but at first it's kind of really steep for you to get there. I think like any other field, really.
From a philosophical perspective, right,
Yeah.
and a monetary philosophical perspective, like what's your position on medicine, doctors, and money in that whole field? Because we have the, I guess, what colloquially people refer to as big pharma, and, you know, the big pharmaceuticals paying attention to diseases that are most profitable, and pursuing drugs that are most profitable, which of course has a money bottom line.
Yeah, definitely.
And not particularly driven by wanting to do good. And then there's, as a doctor, there is the what's your cardinal rule? Do no harm.
Yeah.
You know, essentially treat people first.
Yeah.
But then you work within hospitals
Yeah.
that have a bottom line.
Yeah.
Where
That are
I don't-
funded.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's the same here, but I know
Yeah.
private hospitals where in Kenya where if you're not putting down money by the time someone's being admitted, like, you know, like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
As a doctor, how do you reconcile with that? One, have you ever been in that situation where there's a patient, but because of the working conditions or the contract that you have, you cannot treat this patient until there's a monetary transaction?
All the time. Actually, the few conversations that I started having on money were because of that. Now, for me personally, right now, I've narrowed my practice down to children. So I have seen these
the
things.
money is though.
I don't know. Because now, for example, let me begin by saying this. There's some people, if you're someone who wants money, you need to first of all understand that in medicine, it will take long for you to arrive because, like I said, the money is more at the top.
Yeah.
Like any other field, right? And there are certain fields that have better money than others. There are certain fields that you can get more money with less work. But there are certain fields that you will get lots of money, but with more work. Case in point, neurosurgery. If someone is doing neuro, it's an area where you will get the money because, first of all, the procedures are extremely meticulous, and someone can be in a surgery for about 10 hours, 12 hours. I mean, 10, 12 hours, I am standing, where I'm sitting, where I'm cutting through something. So that's a very long time. So honestly, even if someone says they're going to bill you instantly a certain amount of money, even if you are the hospital, you better just give it to them very quietly because now, like, you're seeing the work is very obvious. Now, for things like dermatology, they are, obviously, you're dealing with aesthetics. For example, let me say if you are a cosmetic dermatologist, and we are living in a world that is very aesthetically inclined in, I have to look like this, I have to look like this. Now, of course, where the money goes is where people are going to follow. So that's why you find right now there's so many products in skincare, just because these things weren't there those days. And you mean those days people never had skin issues? Not really. But because that's where the biggest money is, that's where most people go. Just to talk about things like big pharma. Now, for the pharmaceutical companies, these ones are literally, it's business. Like, it's business. So it's simply, they want money. But now, let me give an example. For example, we have seen things like diseases over even the time of COVID, HIV, cancer things. The biggest amounts of research are put into where the biggest amount of money is.
Yes.
The biggest amount of drug options are put where the biggest amount of money is. The reason why HIV was attended to with that amount of precision worldwide is because it was something which was affecting the entire world. When you come down to it, Big Pharma will basically make more money from a worldwide pandemic than if it's something, yeah? That is why we have things like we call like rare diseases. So things maybe like that come from genetic mutations or certain types of cancer that are really rare, especially genetic mutations, autoimmune diseases. These are the kinds of things that you'll find don't have enough research, don't have enough funding, there's not enough drugs, there's not enough antidotes, simply because there's not enough people. If a disease, for example, affects everyone in 50 million people, and another disease is affecting every 10 million in 20 million people. If you were the one that was producing the drugs, do you think you would go to fund the one which is 1 in 50 million? No. So that's where now for us as doctors, you kind of get a bit of frustration because now, for example, if you're diagnosing something that is extremely rare, you're going to struggle a bit because there's not enough research on it. And even if there is research, you don't have enough drugs. That's why you find cases where like doctors tell you, at this point, I don't have anything else I can do because it's quite literally not there. Even if I would think about it, I have to maybe generate it myself for it to exist. So, of course, at the end of the day, money, like I said, it's like money has its own spirit. Like what people say, literally money talks. Now, the part of patience and what, now for me, I'm one of those people who began doing medicine from a place of, I actually do, like I love it. I want to be able to help people, yada, all those things, right? So recently, I've seen a lot more cases where you find, now, because I deal with children, you find it's even much more painful on that kind of level. So for me, my love was always in women and children. So those are the areas that I was quite good at and quite really more enthusiastic about, right? So you'd find that a baby, like I've seen that so many times, a baby comes to the hospital, they can hardly breathe, they need an ICU. The baby is having difficulty in breathing because they need definitive support. And that definitive support can be in an ICU. That's why I got a bit of frustration and I was like, now. So remember, when people are speaking out there in public, they're going to be like, oh, these doctors are the ones who want money, yada, yada. But you realize that most times the doctor who is actually working on you isn't the one that's asking you for money. This order is coming from above. Even if I'm to say I'm going to force you into the ICU, I can't keep you there because at the end of the day, the hospital has to run. There have been so many cases of clients who you come and find, maybe they have been in, let me say, the ICU for like 3 months. At that point, your bill is literally more than your entire life savings, like even your entire family combined, because there's some ICU cases that I've seen that can go to about 500 million Uganda shillings. That's about, I don't know how much is that in Kenya shillings. But so you find, even if you combine selling all the properties, you've combined selling, like for example, at times of COVID, the money simply can't be gotten. And now if you're not able to pay, the hospital goes into loss. They've put a lot of drugs on the person. They've put a lot of facilities and the workers. People need to be paid. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it comes down to that. So you find sometimes whereby facilities put strict rules and they're like, whatever you do right now, do what is emergency, what you call first aid. Just try to keep the person alive as best as you can, and then refer them to a facility where they can be able to afford care. I've seen a number of children who the child is literally dying and the entire family, the clan, the neighbors, everyone is there. And you're like, we need 1 million to put this child into the ICU. And if someone is to tell you, let me say 1 million in a private facility as a immediate cash down payment, that is one of the cheapest private facilities in Uganda. The other private facilities are going to tell you between 3 to 5 million for you to pay cash down before you're allowed to enter inside there, because the ICU is really expensive. Now, for government facilities, which are probably going to be free or more subsidized, if it's free and the biggest amount of the population is generally poor, it means the demand is severely high. It means the waiting lists are so long.
Space.
So there is no space. So now someone is like, I've called for space, I can't find space anywhere. Because even me, I want you to survive as best as possible. But you can't afford here, where you are. You can't afford higher levels, which are more expensive, but probably do have the space. And now if I'm to take you to government, there's no one that's going to attend to you. Mm-hmm. So it gets very frustrating. So there are a number of people that you have to tell, you know what, if this money is not here, they simply can't put you in. Not because of you're a bad person or what, but there are rules that also govern you, you know? Yeah. So yeah, and as unfortunate as it is, money does have the backbone at the end of the day.
Okay. Yeah. I ask this to every doctor I've spoken to. How do you cope with and how do you deal with losing a patient?
Horribly.
You personally, what's your...
Horribly, man, horribly. Before, now when I was still very, very young in the field, I think when I was a student at that time, I used to have this thing where I would get very attached to my patients. Like, Like you get to know them, get to know their family, they've all come. So when you enter the room, they want this particular doctor, they want to speak to you in particular. But you see, the problem with that is that you begin growing a relationship. So when you come to work, you first go check on them. They now become like your people. When a person dies, you also go into grieving and mourning. And that's a part that facilities or centers or the world in general simply does not see that. And yet now a person is going to die and expected to move on. You get what I mean? Like the family is going to have time to grieve, but you're supposed to be like, okay, I mean, rest in peace, but now move on. And then, but what does that do to you as a human being? Now, unfortunately, with time, as you keep saying this thing, your brain kind of gets disinhibited to protect you. Now that's why some people say doctors are so mean. How can you see my person die and you move on? But you see, the thing is, if I have worked on 10 patients, maybe let me say 100 patients in a month, and maybe I've lost 5, like this one I just see dying, this one I see, how do you then move on to seeing the next client if I have to first mourn? You get what I mean? For example, you're like in an emergency situation, you're having like 5 patients that are there. This one is gasping, this one is what? And I have to triage and prioritize. This one has come, maybe they've come in dead, what we call death on arrival, right? Or dead before arrival. They've come in dead. I'm just supposed to be like, you know what, call the people, finish that part. Now move on to the next person. Do the best you can. If this one now gets to be able to breathe on their own, maybe I've resuscitated them, they can breathe on their own. I'm like, okay, please let the nurses, maybe other people take over. I go to the next one. This one is still, you know what I mean? So eventually, you will have a day that by the end of the day, you are frustrated if it has been like a really, really shitty day. But then you kind of have to put yourself together because you also still have to check on your relative. Probably also having a relative who is also sick. You also have that to deal with. You also, you know what I mean? So for me personally, I just now I have tried to be more empathetic with grief, especially on the side of the patient. I try to put myself out of that situation in terms of I'm going to give you what it is that, to the best of my ability, what I think it is you need in this moment. So if it's maybe you need some bit of peace and quiet, maybe you need me to give you your baby, let them hold their last breath. Maybe it is like I try to be as empathetic as possible. I mean, that's the least I can do. But then as soon as I'm done with that, I just go, I pray, maybe call someone that makes me happy and just let it be, because I also can't start using drugs, man. I just still need to be alive. So yeah, that's how I cope.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were speaking earlier, you talked about around money. You said you've seen different sides of money.
Yeah.
Is that as a lived experience in your family? Is that what money was like? There were both sides? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. As a lived experience. And also I tend to think of myself as an observer of life. For example, I've seen people who you find, like people who you live with or people who are like in your community and your relatives. Maybe someone was a person who was known as the richest. You know what I mean? Like they have a really good paying job, they have good security, they have this and this and this. But the moment that is taken away, the person gets into an immediate crisis. And for me, that always amazed me. Like, if you've had 5 good years, and when you lose the source, immediately you get into a crisis. For me, I felt like that is a very big problem. Like, when you're in these places, or let me say, for example, you're in a place of power or what, I think sometimes money and power intoxicates and makes you think that it's going to be like that for the rest of your life. And so you find that we kind of exclude the part of thinking or knowing that this is life and anything can happen. And so you're supposed to make plans for what if anything happens, you know? And then I've seen people who you find they don't really have much. Like the person lives an average life, like I mean average life. But maybe let's say, for example, they lose a job or they have some sort of like instability. They kind of pick themselves up a bit faster than a person who had much more, or what you would think is much more. So these are things that I kept on seeing and observing, and I was like, well, that's interesting. Or for example, someone gets sick and the entire family gets on a standstill. Like, these are things that you know are going to happen in life. I mean, I do understand that sometimes things can just happen abruptly, but I realize that there is a big gap and a very big need for literacy on money itself. So yeah, that's how.
Okay. What was your lived experience? What was your lived experience? What was your family like? What was your background like? What was money?
Here's why you should choose FXpress if you're in Uganda. Tight spreads and low commission. Competitive rates, free educational resources, 24/6 customer support. Oh, and did I mention fast deposits and withdrawals? Check the link in bio to register now.
Yeah.
For example, I can say I grew up with both my parents. My mom is more of, I think like most women, she's very risk averse. That means she's very critical with money, like really, really critical. I mean, I have to have this plan, I have to have this plan, I have to this plan. My dad was more a risk taker, I think like how most men are. And it was more of like, yeah, money has come. Yeah, more money will come. You know what I mean? So let's do this, like that kind of thing. So I got to see, I got to have like, I think a first-hand information or look directly on both sides through my parents. Like you see this person and how they handle money and how does that result? And then you see this person and how do they handle money and how does that result? So I think for me, that maybe just not to get into so much detail, but that I think kind of shaped my entire outlook on money. Yeah.
Did they teach you directly about money when you were younger? Or have they ever taught you directly about money?
Like sitting down and telling you today I'm going to tell you about money.
Yeah, and like it's telling you things directly about money and being intentional about teaching you about money.
No, observation. Observation. Also because I'm a firstborn child, so I kind of have like control of certain accounts and things like that. So more of observation and learning and then asking where it is.
Control of certain accounts?
Yes.
Family accounts?
Yes.
Oh, how early did you?
Not really early. I was already a bit older. I was already like an adult.
Okay.
But at least you'd find your parents would entrust you. Maybe your mom would be like, I have this account, I'm buying this land, I'm going to sell this land, this is what we're getting, so we're putting it, this is what we're going to do. What do you think? How should we, like that kind of thing? Or like if let me say you've gotten a certain asset, they're like, what do you think we should do with this? Where should we put it? Like that. So yeah.
But even then, even before they give you access to the first account,
yeah,
is there a conversation leading up to that moment, or is it just one random day you get a phone call and this is the first time you're talking about it?
No.
And you're being told about an account?
It is, I think also for my parents, it was observation that led into trust of like, oh, I see how she is with money. So I think she can actually handle this. So there was nothing like someone saying, now I'm going to walk you through how we do this. No, it's like, okay, I see how you are with money. You're not maybe wasteful. You also try to invest. You try to grow. So you have like some level of financial discipline. So now I'm going to get you this. I want to show you this. I'm going to be transparent with this. That's how it was.
Okay. Do you think, and again, I ask this with all respect, do you think it's interesting that they may not have directly taught you to be disciplined with money, but then the expectation for you to get access to the accounts was linked to discipline with money, yet they never taught you about it?
For the discipline, my mom taught me discipline with money.
She taught you discipline with money?
Yes.
So she was direct.
Yes, that one, she taught me discipline with money. I think most of the thing, she taught me discipline with money. She taught me, I can say a lot of things in terms of you can't despise money. You can never think some money is too small. You can think some money is too big. She always told me you don't have to earn so much for you to become rich. And at the same time, you don't have to be poor for you to actually suffer from poverty itself. So those are the things that she went on teaching me along the way. And then right now, I'm the one who actually teaches her things. So it's interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. How did she teach you? Because, I guess you mentioned nobody directly said anything.
Yeah.
So how did she teach you some of those lessons? Like the one you said, you don't have to be in poverty to be poor.
Yeah.
How did those lessons come across?
For example, we're there and then we are maybe discussing a certain issue, maybe a certain hiccup that has come with the finances in the family, or maybe like something has come and maybe, let me say, tuition is now kind of problematic, or maybe there is like someone in the neighborhood or someone in the family that is struggling with something. And then Fwa should always kind of teach you through situations that are happening at the moment. So she'll be like, you see, when it comes to this, I think this could have been handled better this way. Or now next time, let's try to take this approach. And then you're like, oh, okay, this approach actually does have results. Or okay, this time, instead of having, let me say, you're always working towards like, when do I get in the next tuition? Now start thinking about ways of how can you live free of that worry of how your children's tuition is going to get paid, how your children's bills are going to get paid. So that kind of thing. So from the knowledge that she had to her level of understanding, I built. So now I'm the one who comes and teaches. I'm like, oh, by the way, there's also this thing that we should check out. There's this thing we should check out. There's this thing. So it was that kind of thing.
Okay. Can you remember, are you able to recall from many of these different instances or scenarios that she was using to teach you, can you recall the most profound lesson she ever taught you? And what was the scenario at the time? Like, what was happening?
I actually can't remember a particular thing because I feel like me and her are really close. So we like have situations almost all the time. Like I can't even say a particular one, to be honest. All the time.
Yeah.
Yes, I can't remember a particular one.
Okay, fair enough. What's your happiest memory as a money memory as a family growing up? What's the happiest memory you have?
Like money memory or like spending money?
Or money related memory. It could be like, it's up to you to define the boundaries, but as long as it's money related, what do you think was your happiest money related memory growing up?
Okay, I remember a time, like first of all, traveling used to be really nice. But then I remember a time when, so for me, when we were growing up, there was nothing like you have excess or you're in luxury or you're in stuff. Like honestly speaking, like that was never there, to be honest. So there was a time when, I think the few times when I was in university, and then I would just tell my dad, because for me I was so used to us being like, there's something they're not going to ask for because they'll feel like this is luxury, you know what I mean? So it would be something like, I remember the time I told my dad, I was like, Daddy, you know what? I think I need like a blender to make my juice. I need a fridge to keep my juice cold. I need a tablet to be able to study. I told him things which I felt like I was just like being like kind of bougie, because I don't know, but I think there are normal things. But for me, because the way things were, it was never like you're going to be there and you have like so much, because I would feel like, no, we don't want to spoil or whatever. So the time when he came to visit me, he came and I was studying from very far. He came to visit me by himself, and then he came carrying all these things. Wow. And then he just came carrying all of them. And I was like, well, this is actually there. So he would have this thing of like, I don't want you to ever think, I don't want you to ever be there and then some man comes and tells you that I can get you these things and yet I can. So I just want you to know that let no man come and tell you things like that or confuse you with items. If you want these, you're in school, have these.
Okay.
So it was interesting.
I'm curious about that because you're like the third or fourth person who I'm speaking to in Uganda who's female and who's talking about their father providing for them financially. And a big driver is, I don't want you to get it from other men.
Oh my God,
so
yes.
I'm curious about whether, I don't know if you have, if any of your siblings are male, if you have any brothers, if they received the same treatment.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely
like
not.
If he was the one who was asking, do you think he would have gotten?
From my dad, but I don't. Even from my mom, I can't say that any of my male siblings. Actually, it's just me and my sister that got certain levels of having things.
Because financially.
In like those things, because my sister now for her, she's very, oh my God, guys, I really want this pink shoe. Which is so interesting because I'm like, how are you so different? But she's like the sweetest person, but she's the one who would have the audacity to go and be like, Daddy, oh my God, I saw this diary and I think this diary would be good for me to process my emotion. Like that's how it should be. I don't know, like those types of things. My brothers, however, just knew like, man, just approach with caution, better go asking for like a textbook or something. My dad even would have times when, actually one of the other things he used to do was, he used to like taking us to places to eat, like nice places to eat. Those ones as a family, but for us, the girls, a bit more, because it'd be like, I'm spending more time with the girl or whatever. And then he'll take you nice places to eat. And then it's like, I want you to go to places, like, so like as many places as possible, so that it's like a man doesn't come and be like, oh, you've not been to this place. So you kind of have like what we call maro, and you're just like, oh my God, this thing is so cool. This man must be really rich and what. Like, so yeah, that was him.
I mean, that's so interesting for me because one, because I have daughters, but I've never thought about it in that way. I've never seen it in that way. And I'm wondering, and again, I ask this with respect, and hopefully you're able to give me an answer. What do you think that does for you as you're growing up in your understanding of money in relation to men? And what do you think it does for your brothers? Because, I mean, your brothers are growing up. They are dependent
it's true.
on your parents as well. So what do you think it did for them in understanding men and money as well in relation to women and relationships?
Money.
Yeah.
So now, in addition to how my dad used to do, now first of all, we were never the kind of thing whereby like I can say that we were spoiled. Not really. To be honest, you had to learn to work. Like, I mean, during my time in uni, during my time in uni, there's so many odd jobs that I did to be able to have a bit more money, like generally. So the concept of work is something that we both had, both as boys and girls. As girls, we had a little bit more than the boys, but all of us, like, you'd have to hustle. Because I think when I was in medical school, at one point I was baking, and at one point I was selling clothes, at one point I was selling perfumes, at one point I was selling, I've forgotten what else I was selling. I think I stopped trying to sell things when I began working, when I got into internship, when things got very busy, but I was always doing something. So then my mom, when we were growing up, I think one of the biggest things that she taught me, like, that was really big was, and it got encrypted in my mind. For some reason, it just remained there, like a voice that's always loud. And she'd always say, you can't just be receiving money from men. You have to be a woman that's independent. Like, in terms of, you have to be able to sustain yourself. You can't rely on a man for money because he will treat you lesser than. You get what I mean? So while growing up, that was something I always had. Even when I began like dating a bit when I was older, I had this thing of like, even if I'm dating, I don't want you to be spending money on me because I don't want you to feel like you have control over me. It was until later when it became more of like, but you know what? I don't want to always like struggle, man. Like, even you're dating someone, like, I don't want to always struggle for everything. So I was like, okay, let me just get a bit more laid back. But even now, I have this thing of, for a man to spend money on me, it's a privilege I've accorded him. So I can't accord that to, you have to be my, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
Yeah, so it's like, right. I can't give the privilege, because I feel like when you cater to someone in any way, when you cater to someone, they kind of have a certain say over you.
Yes.
And I don't want that power to just give it out to people. Yeah. Now, that is how it shifted my perspective. But I also have this thing of, you must be able to work, you must be able to earn, have your own living, that kind of thing. My brothers are very, it made them very, what's the word? They're not wasteful people.
Yeah. They're
not wasteful people. Like, all of them, you see, have not worked for very many years, but they all have something to show for it. So like that, like, I don't know how I can say it. Like, everyone is doing something with their life. Even if you're not earning so much or something, you can't say that someone has been working for a year and they completely have nothing to show for it. So, yeah, I think to a certain level, my parents maybe did a good job. That's what I think.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But of course, they always felt like they were struggling a bit more than us.
I mean, clearly.
Definitely. Definitely, yes.
Okay, all right. So for you now, right, once you start, because you said essentially you're hustling through university and you just want a bit more money just to be able to socialize and do different things. So when you start working as a doctor, or when you start doing your internship, right? That's what comes first. After 5, 6 years.
Yes.
First of all, did you do the 5-6 years? It's been a typical 5-6 years.
Properly, please.
Okay, no.
Retakes were very expensive. I couldn't. So yes, properly.
So no retakes, no nothing.
No.
Okay. All right. So what's the pay scale? Is it, because I know the system in Kenya is when you're done, you're posted by the government, they post you to internship. Basically, in the certain pay scales that they work with. So what's the pay scale for doctors here when you start immediately?
When you're doing your internship?
Yeah.
So the internship thing, that's why you find there have always been so many strikes. The doctors striking and whatnot, because honestly, when you're an intern, you have the highest level of work in the hospital. So before that, those who were there before us, like the pay in Uganda, honestly, it's even embarrassing. The pay for the interns before was about 700,000 Uganda shillings per month. That is, I don't even know how to say. That's like less than, I don't know, man. Let him do the math. Then,
no, it's fine. Let's use Uganda.
yeah, so about 700. Those ones who are before us.
Yeah.
Now, for some good reason, in our year,
25K. Yes.
yeah,
700,000
Uganda shillings.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Those are for the interns. That's what we're getting per month, of which the government pays. Sometimes you'd find they pay them quarterly, meaning this money comes in after 4 months, 3 months, like that.
Yeah.
Then our year, when our time was coming, was the time when we striked and we got the highest pay of the intern years ever recorded. So our year, they were giving us a gross of 2.5 million, then a net of 1.8 million.
Okay.
That was our year, but it was only our year of internship. 64. That was just 1 year.
So you guys went on strike to give you guys that money.
Yeah,
Then
but
the next year
people had kept on striking. But then our year, the strike for some reason just got us that money. Then when we got out, more problems started again. Then the next year now that came in, got, I think 1 million net. I think something like that. But you can see that the pay honestly is sad, because my colleagues who work in Kenya, they're like, man, you guys, the money in Uganda is trash. To be honest, it is really horrible. So that's how it was. Then when we finished,
before you even talk about finishing,
yeah.
Can you tell me, to live how much would it cost me to live a decent life in Kampala? Like, how much would I need to be earning? And if you can give me basic expenses of, okay, I'm living in a decent place, I'm able to pay rent, I'm able to have transport, I'm able to go to a restaurant on the weekend, you know, and have some good clothes, be able to put some money aside. Like, how much do you think one would need to make average to have something like that?
Okay, for example, decent accommodation within Kampala, the secure areas of Kampala, probably would be like around 600,000 Uganda shillings.
That's for like a 1-bedroom apartment, like a 2-bedroom apartment?
Like a 1-bedroom apartment.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's about 600,000. Then for you to have transportation, man, I can't, it's hard for you to rate transportation because it doesn't, what means are you using? Is it fuel? Is it a border?
Let's fit the scenario. Let's assume it's a mix of a border and taxis, right?
That is a very wide range. But like,
let's use one. Let's use a simplified one.
If you're let me say, for example, if you're using borders, let me say if you're using a border, okay, maybe a border can be quite expensive. Let me say, for example, you stay, where are the most residential areas? It's like Chira, Chanja. Let me say, so if for those areas, if you're coming from there, let me say to here, it would cost you maybe like around, maybe like 10,000 by border. By taxi, maybe it can be like around 3,000, 4,000, around there.
So if you even say this is a person who's financially astute, and let's say they're using a taxi, so that's 6,000 going and coming back.
Yes.
Right? So 5 days a week, that's 30,000.
That's 30,000.
So
times 4,
it becomes 120,000.
120,000.
So we are at 720,000.
720,000. But of course, if you're using if you're a student, you have no business staying in a 600,000 apartment. Maybe there, you're going to have to look for those ones that are like, because in Kampala, man, when we're talking about having a decent living, that is different.
Yes. Don't talk about those decent living.
Decent, because there's people who live in houses of like even 20K in like the ghetto. So that's a different world.
That's like another.
Yeah, that one is different now. So like maybe it's around rent about 500 to 600,000 a single bedroom apartment. I mean, decent, secure, sort of. Okay.
So that's the 500 plus the 120. That's the transport. So food.
If you cook, maybe you may be able to save more money. So you maybe like buy food when you have when you have maybe gotten a salary, so you buy and kind of stock food. Otherwise, the average meal in, let me say, for example, an average plate. You know, okay, I'm going to speak from average because, to be honest, there's so much that is below average, man. It's so much. Yeah. I'm going to say, or maybe the person that I interact with more. A plate of local food, I think, can be around 5,000 to 7,000 Uganda shillings.
Okay. If you're saying the person is making at least 2 meals a day.
2 meals. Right. Breakfast can cost you, I mean, if you're someone that have a Rolex and tea, that would be like maybe 2,000.
Okay.
But if you have, like, let me say Katogo, which most people like having, that's about 5,000. Plus maybe tea, like 3, 4, 5,000.
Can we come up with an average of maybe like 10,000 a day for meals? If you're eating out, that is.
Normally, like, I think maybe. That's very averagely, like even hardly drinking. Like, cause imagine if a plate is about 7,000 and you drink maybe water of 1,000, that means breakfast, you're going to have a remainder of like 2,000. Yeah. That means your breakfast should have maybe a Rolex without tea, or I don't know, man.
You're just suffering.
It's just too much. Okay, yeah.
Average, let's say food average, I would say, if I'm using like
maybe it's a 10.
10,000 average over 5 days, that's 50,000. Let me work with an average of 200,000. Between 200 to 300,000 as a food budget, right? Mm-hmm. That gets our budget now up to about 1 million.
Yeah, so you're already living above your means.
Yeah.
That means you don't deserve decent living in Kampala. Like, simply put, to be honest,
you need to be elsewhere.
You need to be you need now to look for the places where maybe, let me say, rent is like 200,000. But there you have to make sure you're ready to run any 5 seconds because the security is shady, man. That's why they're going to hijack you on the road. Yeah. But like that. But then let me say, for example, food, either you cook, or maybe you have a certain maybe restaurant that you have subscribed. What some people do, especially when we're like students, what some people do is that would have like a book, what's the thing called, like a tab that you open in the restaurant. Maybe let me say you pay there like 100,000 and maybe like every day they took off maybe like 5, depending on the food you've chosen. That can help you. Don't begin loitering into breakfast. They're just... Keep it at lunch. Yeah, don't loiter. Keep it at just lunch. Okay. Just be strong.
Okay. So how did you break down your 1.8? The 1.8?
My 1.8, you see, the thing is, now this is the thing I always say, that when you're I remember for me, I've always been used to being able to live in the smallest amount of means as possible. But number one, remember, I was up country. I wasn't in Kampala. Man, I was deep in the village. So there was not even things like Ati saying, I'm going to a salon, I feel like doing my nails for therapy. No, please. But also the hospital would give us housing, so you're not paying rent. Then you'd pay, how much they used to make us pay per month for food. There's someone who was a lady who would cook for all of us. So as intern doctors at that time, would just pay a particular lady to cook for us food. So she would make general meals, like how you are at home. I think we used to pay like 100,000 per person.
£100,000.
Yes, each. So then that means you would have enough meals for a month.
Okay.
So that's very decent, right?
More than.
Yeah, that's.
When you have 1.7 left.
Yes. Then you would have even bills, electricity, those ones were paid for by the facility. Then what else? Or maybe I'd have things like people's weddings. Oh, also, please, another thing that helped me is that I didn't have kids. So that was very helpful. So you don't necessarily have like family members that are like, of course, if you have people that are dependent on you, that's a different issue. Yeah. Then I'm not really a person that's going to be like wanting clothes, wanting what. So also I'm in the village, like I'm deep in the village. So I didn't really have a place where I want to go and buy things. So it wasn't really like that.
So what did you end up doing?
That's the thing I'm always saying. You see, the thing I'm always saying is that while I was but then you would have someone coming. Oh, then I also began doing money lending. That's one thing I began doing. So when someone wants money, I'd be like, I'm only giving you a certain amount. It has to be paid within this time, but within a way that I used to kind of grow my money, like little. But one of the things that I always tell people, like I always tell the doctors who are still much younger, that's one thing I always like, I'm like, guys, when you're in your internship, remember, you began having your first earnings. So that now, remember, if you're in the settings like mine, of course, if you're in Kampala, you may find the housing isn't enough and you have to find where to go because things are really wild. But if you're in a place where your housing is catered, your bills are catered, your food is quite decently priced, this is a very perfect time for you to start putting money aside, like really putting money aside, because you do not know for how long you're going to live in this kind of situation. Also, another thing is, now what some facilities do that we call like PNFPs or whatever, like upcountry or what, even here, they house their doctors and they house their like nurses. So you find that's not a bill you have to suffer with. But the problem is, it has a disadvantage. It gives you stability, but also it gives you comfort. So you kind of don't think about growing outside the facility. Now, what I would always tell the intern that now after internship is when I began, because now when I came now in Kampala is where I had more exposure. So I got a financial advisor, teach me about this. Now I would always say, I wish I knew the knowledge I have now when I was then. Right now I'd be like somewhere really, really like one of my goals. So yeah, so now that time, I would always be like, but where has my money gone? Of which I might say that the government would pay you in quarters.
Yes.
So because it would pay in quarters, maybe you would get like money for 3 months in one bulk. But remember, I'm not spending this money like that. Also, I'm not someone who generally spends a lot of money. But then you'd be here, then this person comes telling you, oh, my wedding is this day, 200,000. Oh, my child is sick, oh, maybe 200,000. Oh, then maybe I find a patient who's on the ward and really, really sick and something needs support. Maybe the bills are heavy, you give them like 100K. Oh, this next thing you go to look and you're like, where is my money? I don't even know. But I also had like a small group that I used to save money in, but it wasn't like a big thing. So I would always be like, but where did that money go? That's why I now began actually being more serious with learning about it and teaching more people. So yeah, that's how.
So by the end of your internship, your year of earning this 1.8 million, you had very little to show for it.
Let me tell you, please, that by the time I was done with internship, the only thing that I remember that I stayed tangible with that my money did was it bought me a laptop. And even right now, the laptop is dead. I was like, what do you even mean? So I came now at that time, I used part of that money. Did I use it to start my podcast? No, I didn't actually. I used that money. I don't know what I used it for. But what I can tell you, the tangible thing that came out of which I bought in Kampala, which is now dead. So I'd always be like, my goodness, Lord, I wish I knew what I know now. Yeah. Then I would have done something better with my money.
And after this internship is over, what's next for a doctor in the career path, and what are the options there, especially for money? Like, what happens? Because I think, if I remember the conversation I had with Dr. Ray, who's a doctor in Kenya, I think he said, so they pay you for that year, but then when the year is up, you now have to find employment.
Yeah. Before, in the years before, doctors never had to look for employment. Then it was just as soon as you're done with this place and maybe the place retains you or they put you to another place, but you would not really look for a job. It's only recent that doctors now also have to look for employment. So I think I finished my internship in like April, but in May I began working. I was like quite fortunate. I began working. I worked in a very good place. While I was there, because it was private, the money was kind of like labile. So sometimes maybe it's higher. For us, sometimes also you get paid in like, there's like the salary that you're paid. Sometimes maybe you find if you're part-time, you're also paid like by shift. So maybe they're paying you per the number of shifts. So the more shifts you do, the more money you make, but the more exhausted and burnt out you are. Then you would also have things that maybe like off some procedures. There are some of those few things that would maybe like make the money add up. But by then, the moment I started, so the time when I got a financial advisor. So I said I finished my internship in April. I started working in May. In June, I was still a bit like, not yet, but I was looking. I'm like, where should I? Like this, I know this money that I'm making, I have to put it somewhere, but where? So around then is when I began consulting, learning things about things like insurance, investment plans, life insurance. I began learning things like treasury bonds. I began learning about those things. So at that point, I was in a group where we used to like put money aside, like a small group that was lending out money. That was one, but I was like, I need something else. Because I was like, I mean, I don't know how long. I'm those people who always think like, I'm not just living in this moment right now, because I've seen so many people that have been hit with, it doesn't have to be a big tragedy. It just has to be like a change in life or something. This is a time in my life where I am literally kind of as least trained as possible. I have just begun working. I am not married. I don't have children. My parents are independent. Here and there, maybe you can just maybe say, I'm going to send you this, maybe just buy you some food.
They don't require you.
They don't really require you. And they're very supportive parents. Like, they will be like, you're just literally beginning. Just live your life. So around that time, now around June, now you see, I finished April, May I begin working. So June, I begin like looking for things. I was like, I need to look for what to do. So then I got a person to teach me a bit more than I learned. So then I began investing with insurance. I began trying to learn more about treasury bonds, about these things. So yeah, from now that month, that's when now I began putting aside money. So yeah, that's why I can say my financial literacy became a bit woke. Yeah.
I mean, it was a relatively short period. I mean, it came...
But the year of internship still haunts me to this day. Yeah, it really does. Because I'm like, where did this money go?
I mean, if I do the math, 1.8 times
12.
1.8 times 12. To find out how many millions potentially.
It's like, man, it's like maybe 12, 13. No, not 12. It's like 15.
Yeah. Anyway, as I'm getting that...
1.8 times 12.
Yeah.
21.6.
Yeah, 21.6.
And I came out with 1.5. I wasn't even having fun. I wasn't even going on
1.5
vacations.
the laptop cost.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not even here. Just imagine, does that math?
I hear you.
It doesn't.
I hear you.
So yeah.
What does a private... I don't know. Are you still working at the same institution now?
No, now I'm doing my residency.
Okay. So at a private institution, what are the payment scales like? I know you've talked about it varies based on shifts, it varies based on procedures. But again, on average, like what would a doctor 1 year after internship expect to be making at a private hospital?
That depends on, number one, the hospital. Number two, are you doing part-time? Are you paid by shifts? Or are you full-time? Are you on a salary scale? Are you and maybe doing something else, maybe like administrative or something? Are you, depending on those, if let me say you are, most other doctors, you'll find things like procedures, also animal. I'm not going to mention figures because I feel like my Ugandan doctors want me to mention their figures. Yeah, so they'll come from me. Why did you say those things? So yeah, but it depends. It's a very, very, very wide range. So especially for generalists. Now, as a specialist, it also depends. If you're working in government, then there is a bit more security. You have like, it's secure, like, because now you also know there's pension. Because private, man, it's like this. Yeah.
Are you able to be, and I don't know what your Ugandan friends, your doctor friends come and finish, but are you able to give me like for example, in the industry that I work in, I can just try and find
a range,
like an average and be like, if you're doing okay, this is an amount that's like around here, between, now I'm talking Kenyan shillings, like between 100,000 and 200,000.
If you're doing
you can
okay,
expect to be making like that range of money. Because the reason why I think for me, I'm asking this question, why I think it's important, is I think part of the thing with money and why we even started this podcast was to be able to get people to talk more about money.
Yeah.
Because I think if especially people who are watching and want to go into specific careers can understand what certain pay scales can look like, then you'd know, okay, this is what I can expect to be there. And if you are currently a doctor and you're in a certain space, you can realize either you're being underpaid or either you're overpaid.
That one is problematic because you see right now, like I said, right now, the medical field is going through a very big, rough patch. Because there are doctors at all levels. There's doctors that are maybe high up in the career, then there's doctors that have not begun working, the doctors that are out of work. There's so many. But maybe if I'm to give you a range. So the medical field can look like, let me try to calculate in my head because I know they're going to come from you. Maybe let me say, some people can come from earning anywhere between, let me mention per day, anywhere between 50,000 to 150, 160,000 per day as a doctor.
Okay.
So you can first do that math.
Then do that math. and call it, so that you like 50,000 per day. This you're working 5 days a week.
That's a generalist.
Yeah, generally.
So that's a generalist.
So per week, that's 50,000 per week. That's 250,000. That means $1 million a month. That's on the lower side of it.
If you're working 5 days a week,
Yeah.
on 50, you're on the lower end.
Yeah, the lower end. On the higher end,
If you're getting maybe like around 150, 160,000, that's just shifts alone.
yeah, that would be 150 over 2 days. That's 300. So 4 days is 600. So that's 750. 750 times 4 should come to about 3 million. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a range, maybe like a range. Now, of course, other people do other things, like they get money from other things, like I mentioned, different things. Then sometimes I think now for the specialists can be paid by consultation. Some the rates are like more, some the rates can be double or triple.
Whatever.
The journalist is getting. The reason why I was like, I'm going to get into residency much faster, especially is for the freedom, because the hours are less. For example, as a journalist, you can find you're working 12-hour shifts. As a specialist, you're working maybe 8-hour, 5-hour shifts, but you're being paid double. You get what I mean? So that's kind of part of the freedom that comes with that. Now, as super specialist, now it's also much, much better. So it depends really on the setting, on the environment. Do you have extra work that you do there? Do you have, like the others who even me find out like in administration, so some can even earn like a decent amount, like quite decent.
Yeah.
So yeah, even as a journalist.
Okay.
So it just depends.
So even your decision to go into residency, there's an element of a financial drive to it. Or it allows you to be able to earn more
with less work.
Less work.
Yes, with less work. Yeah. Because I am very passionate about family. I want to be able to not be those people that unfortunately had to work their way out of their relationships with their family. Like, for example, if I started having children, I'd want to be there for my kids. I'd want to be there for my husband. Like, so that I don't, because remember, if you work, the times when I would be working 12-hour shifts, I kid you not, I would be so burnt out. Like, you are extremely exhausted, because if you start work at 8 a.m., you're only leaving at 8 p.m. Now, there's some shifts which are really annoying. For example, like 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Now, you get to sleep in a bit longer, but then you work, you get what I mean? So that is something that really used to bother me the most. Like, the hours were just too long. Yeah. So as a specialist, at least your hours are more decent, and you're able to delegate a bit more. You have a bit more comfort. If maybe, let me say, you have a junior doctor that is really good at what they do, maybe they're interested in your field, so you train them, and then you find they handle business for you now. In that way, they're also growing in the career, but also you're kind of not as exhausted. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So as a sort of winding up, so it looks like now I guess you're the financial advisor.
Yeah.
And they're helping you, and now you have things that you're investing in. So
Yeah.
there's the money, the loaning money thing that you're doing with a group of people.
Sometimes. Yeah.
And then
like those are some ventures that were like on and off. But
okay.
yeah, I don't want people to know.
You
You,
don't
you
like
want
the constant-
you want taxman to come for me. I don't want the taxman to come for me. But okay, yes, I have engaged in some of those activities.
And then you're not putting aside money for investment. You have life insurance, a different insurance.
Yes.
That you've taken.
Different insurance policies.
Looking to invest in different places of the market.
Yeah.
Do you have any other elements like land considerations or entrepreneurship?
Definitely.
How are you? Is it a consideration that you want to do, or are you already actively putting money into those spaces?
Actively putting money into those spaces, but also right now, because I'm doing my residency is very expensive. So it kind of takes more from you than it puts into you.
How much does it cost?
Whoa, it depends again where you are. Now, for me, I'm in one of the expensive universities. Quite good, but quite expensive. So residency can be anywhere between, in Uganda, it can be anywhere between 2 million in maybe government to about maybe 4.5567 million. Per semester.
Per semester. And how many semesters do you need to do?
So you have to do 2 semesters per year, and it's about 3 years.
Okay, so in total, so in a year it can be on the higher side. It can be 14 million a year, and for 3 years that gets to what, 30?
Around 32 million.
32 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at that point, so that you don't die, You try to make sure that the places that are putting out your money are much, much less. Does that make sense? Because otherwise the output is really high. If also how can I say, what you're spending on yourself at that point, because what you're spending is literally your brain, your experience, you're investing in yourself, you are your own investment at that point, then the areas that you try maybe say, I'm going to put aside money for this, or put aside money, you kind of have to be a bit less areas so that you stay alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Last question.
Yeah.
If 5-10 years from now you were not financially successful,
Yeah.
what would have happened? It's an ominous question, but it's just,
I'm trying to think about it.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have been 5-10 years.
Yeah. Like if you're not financially successful, what has happened? What would have happened for you to fail at your financial goals?
Maybe I would have been debilitated by my health. Maybe I would have been crippled. Because at that point, my health insurance probably would have run out. But also, my husband would be able to sustain. What do you mean? No, but one thing that I have tried to do as much as possible is to have investment plans that are like 5 years, 10 years. But also another thing that I've wanted to do is, especially when you get into the family system and the family space, to look at things like doing accounts, things like emergency funds, but at least the fund, because I want to get into an emergency fund that can cover you, let me say, for example, for a year if you're not having active input, a year, 2 years, 3 years, if you're not having active input. But also that means that there still has to be somewhere that something little, active, not no input at all. But also I respect the fact that illness can make you poor quickly. Like you're just one hospital bill away from poverty. And I mean extreme poverty. Like not just moderate, average poverty. I mean real poverty. Because if you're left the hospital and they've told you your bill is 600 million, do you know how long you should have worked for you to actually know that you have 600 million set aside? You know what I mean? So one thing that I always tell people so much is health insurance. Like health insurance may not cover everything. It may not cover every bill, every whatever, but it will surely give you so much protection, at least for a very decent amount of time. It will cover you and your children. There's things of, how, Miss, how you said, you go to the dermatologist and they're like, oh, the small thing, maybe something, you pay 4,000 for consultation. Let me say they've given you some cosmetic products for the dermatologist. Barangi. They've given you this kind of thing, this kind of thing, this kind of thing. And then you find by the time, because here, I think the one time I tried going to dermatologist because of skincare routines. I'm not doing that anymore. Anyway, when I tried going to dermatologist because of that, at one point, I left the hospital and my bill was about 500,000 Uganda shillings. I'm like, is this like robbery? I'm like, you know what? I'm paying that when like my leg is not working. I'm paying that when like something. But the point is, you imagine you go to a hospital to just remove your tooth, maybe tell you 100,000, 200,000. You go here to do this, maybe your child is sick, has gotten a malaria. Malaria in a very minimal hospital here is scared for about 250,000. That's malaria. So how about like proper illnesses, proper. You know what I mean? You go here, let me say, for example, I work with babies, then you need to ICU, maybe say you get into labor and you have a baby, maybe a baby comes in too early, then you need to ICU in the lowest private hospital is about 350,000 per day without drugs. So maybe average around 600,000 per day with the drugs. Or maybe even 800, depending on the drugs also. If you're still going on like some which are quite pricey. Now, on the private end, the private hospitals, the same neonatal ICU is about 1 million to anywhere around 3.5 million per day. This baby is about 6 months of life. Maybe them around born at 28 weeks. They need to first attain 38 weeks. You find people are in hospital for about 3 months. So even if, let me say, you're in the lowest hospital, in terms of private care, you're paying about, 700,000 per day for 3 months.
Yeah, that's 90 days.
Yeah.
630, is it? Yeah.
Multiply that.
30 million, I think.
Now, you go to the other one who is paying 5 million or 3 million per day. You get what I mean? So it doesn't necessarily have to be at maybe, let me say, you're very, very poor off the scale. Maybe you don't have any kind of support. But healthcare can be very crippling.
Yeah.
Because at that point, if it's life or death, people fight everything to keep life. So,
Okay, I hear you.
yeah.
And so basically, I mean, even in terms of responding to your question, so basically, you have that level of discipline where right now, with what you've learned and what you've get from financial advisor, you're not playing around with where your money goes. You're very particular with putting your money away in the right spaces.
If people are living below their means, I'm living in hell. I'm telling you the truth. Because that year, man, just frustrated me. I was so angry. I was like, how have I earned a total of like 21 million in a year? And I have 1.5 million to show for it. Just imagine. So from that time, I was like, no, I'm not playing with my money. Like, I rather know, I don't have loose cash on me, but there is somewhere where if I'm dying, some money can be gotten. And no one has that information, except the people who have been told when I'm dying. But you get what I mean? So it's just that kind of thing. I just, man, I'm so strict with money, man. I can't be dying. No, man, I can't. That can't happen
Thank
again.
you so much. Thank
You're
you so much for
welcome.
coming with Financially Correct.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for giving us your story. Thank you for giving us
you.
your perspective of the medical field.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it. Like I said, we've done I did an episode with the doctor in Kenya, so we give that perspective.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to just watch and compare and contrast. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you so much for watching. Thanks for watching Financially Incorrect Uganda Edition. We will see you next in 2 weeks for the next episode of Financially Incorrect Uganda Edition. See you there.